What's the one word you want everyone to walk away with from today's conversation?
I have to say this word. I have to say humanity. You were talking about the stillness and the soul and the roots and all those things, being grounded of that. AI doesn't have a point of view and it does not have a source. It's not a source of truth, large language models specifically. We are that source of truth, and that only comes from our consciousness, our aware conscious humanity.
Shift happens, opportunities change, and success is a choice. So when shift happens, it is our choice. Either we let shift happen or we make shift happen. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Talking Shift podcast. All right. We got a really good episode here. I got my brother in arms here, Eric Post, CEO, founder, and entrepreneur of Whoosy.ai. And, look, we're going to dive in. And Eric is such a good human, right? Another fellow member of the Good Human Club. And as part of the Good Human Club, he's also deep into AI, developing AI, getting to know AI, but at a human level. And I love philosophies on AI. And I think that's so powerful because as a developer, as a company owner of, Whoosy.ai and what he's doing, with the business, the fact that he has humanity out in front, and Eric, I'm introducing you, but I'm speaking to you as well as you have, humanity out in front of this. A, thank you. And B, I'm so curious about where your mindset is, with AI. But, as we get into it first, dude, brother, welcome to the show, man. I'm looking forward to talking shift with you.
We're going to talk a lot of shift in the next however many minutes we're going to do this because your energy is on fire as always. And this is such a fun topic because I like to talk about this sort of topic in ways that I don't hear other people talking about because that's what makes it fun for me. So let's get into it, man.
Yeah. Well, like we're both interested in this, right? And that's the thing. And the curiosity, is what will carry the conversation. So I think, a good place to start really is like, in your view, I mean, AI is obviously moving at such velocity. In fact, even just by the time in this conversation, it's already changed, right? I mean, give me your sense on what the state of the union is in the development of AI, kind of where it's at, where, the shift with the consumer, the average Joe out there. I mean, give me a little bit of your gut check on what's going on.
So I started building this company the day you could get an API to start building. So I was like the first guy to start building in this industry, any sort of consumer facing product that was built on top of a ChatGPT, API. And so since then to now, it's been fun to watch the adoption curve. You have the standard bell curve of any sort of technology adoption. So you have the early adopters, then the laggards, and or the late majority, and so on and so forth. So it's been fun to get a little deeper into the adoption curve.
Give me a timeline on that. When did you launch Whoosy? Just give me a quick timeline on what you're talking about.
Yeah, 2.5, officially 2.5 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, ChatGPT, what was that?
2022. It was 22.
Oh, it was 22. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was November, I think, of 22 is to be exact. I got to look back, but pretty sure it's accurate. And so what's happened since then? First of all, there's been a few trends. One, it's nice to see finally the industry realizing what's going to happen to them, whether they like it or not. That's a good thing. That's a healthy thing to have a dose of reality, right? And realize that the biggest threat to the industry, I want everyone to hear me right at the top of this thing, is not Zillow, is not the AI-powered competitor, the cliche of like, AI is not going to take your job, but an AI-powered competitor will. No, it's not. The AI-powered consumer will have other choices is what's going to happen. And I want
that's a really, say that again, man. Emphasize that again.
Yeah, I cannot stress this enough that in any knowledge-based service industry, mortgage, real estate, finance, legal, medical, anything where you're exchanging knowledge, expertise and knowledge, and that's the currency is being exchanged. The biggest threat is the AI-powered consumer because they all have a good enough answer in their pocket now. Okay. And I wasn't able to say this maybe 18 months ago, maybe even a year ago. But now the models at GPT 5.1 today, we've got Gemini 3, we've got Claude Sonnet 4.5 and Opus 4.5, we got Grok 4.1. Like these are intelligent systems. They know every line of the contract. They know every rule of every state of every loan program. They have plenty of great advice to give, but they don't have any of the wisdom, the humanity. They don't have any of the human experience that's really necessary. So we have a huge advantage as experts, but if you're not an expert, if you are average or below, you are in big trouble with the AI-powered consumer today in a knowledge-based service industry.
Well, and I think that's what I'm seeing right now as well, right? I mean, for how fast AI is moving. And frankly, it's really easy to start using AI, and then it can become very difficult because it's so infinite to now start figuring out, okay, how do I actually start applying this into my life and my business? How do I actually start driving this, and not at an enterprise or company level, but personally? Well, the consumer is starting to figure that out. And I think that's what's really powerful. The point you're saying here, it's not another originator or another company using AI that's going to replace you. The consumer is going to have choices. They're going to have information, and AI is solving for minutia. So we have to be able to elevate and leverage ourselves up to meet the consumer where AI maybe isn't there, to really to lever up our humanity or the human experience.
In the game of being found online, where it was the internet, the other transition I really want people to hear me very clearly say is that the entire internet has moved very quickly from a place of search, things, rates, addresses, listings, to a place of conversations.
Mm.
And that shift, to talk shift, is so like it's parabolic right now. Okay. So ChatGPT alone has 800 million active weekly users. Okay. That's doubled in just the last few months.
Doubled in the last few months.
Yes. Yes. So I'm talking parabolic, and that's just one brand. Google Gemini is actually really picking up steam for
Yeah.
consumer traffic.
Yeah.
Grok is still a little behind. Perplexity is still there, and Claude's really picking up steam. Not so much for consumer facing stuff, a little more on the tech side. But man, I mean, this is a trend that if you don't understand that the internet has shifted wildly, completely. And here's a stat, Craig. I just looked up this stat the other day. I gave a talk on Monday. 93% of AI conversations do not result in the consumer clicking through to view a website. So these are called zero-click searches. They're going to talk to their AI companion and taking the information that it gives it, and they're not going any further. So if you're not being talked about by the AIs, you are
Yeah.
invisible.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I want to put some clarity towards that. And I think everybody, well, no, I'm going to assume not everybody knows this, right? And CEO is not the strategy anymore.
It's the
Now it's
foundation still, just to be clear. It's still phase one. I don't want to say it's dead. It's still a good keep going, but I just want to say it's still, in my opinion, sorry to interrupt you, buddy.
no.
It's still an important foundational building blocks, but it is not the end game for sure. So keep going. Yeah, I know where you're going.
No, you take this thread and keep going with it. So SEO is a building block. Where do we need to go next with it?
The trend, and hopefully has ever heard these, everybody's been hearing these terms, but GEO and AEO, generative engine optimization and answer engine optimization. Those are two different strategies. I hear them kind of being used ubiquitously in like Kleenex, like it's kind of describing everything. It's not. One is essentially the strategy of when, and by the way, this is what the industry thinks. The industry is teaching. I hear all these coaches and people talking about when the consumer goes to ChatGPT and says, give me the best lender that's doing FHA loans. That's not what the consumer's asking first, by the way. They're
They don't know
asking
what
not
FHA means.
no, and they're not even asking for, they're asking for advice about what am I doing? I might buy a house? Would they have good employment? What are the school districts like? Like what's the weather there? And they're doing that kind of lifestyle research they'd normally use the agent for. They're going to the AI, right? And so these are the sorts of conversations you want to be the source for, because AI just doesn't use the training data. It will go online. It'll say, oh, well, what are the best schools in West Lynn? It will search the internet, find it out, search it up. So there's a whole strategy, be part of that conversation and a source of truth for these AI models. And then there's the generative engine optimization, which is like what we just talked about, like schools and conversations that are not like, give me the top 5 best agents, in this marketplace.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but that's exactly where I was going to go. So we have to go from SC. And the other thing, and I want to get your thoughts on this actually. And I haven't really like fleshed this out, so I'm going to sound a little like garbled on this. But it seems to me almost that like we've had this, we've got to be authentic out there in social media, and this is my personal brand, and I'm saying from an SEO strategist, we have keywords and we have things, mindset and leadership and strategy and mortgage and loan, whatever. And there's our SEO strategy, right? But AI doesn't really pull off of that in the authenticity part of it. What AI wants is authority, a very definitive, authoritative, you said source of truth. I ask a question and there's a source of truth that Eric Post or Craig Davis or whomever is the answer or the source of truth for that. There's this weird sort of cycle that like we have to go on. I'm not saying we have to go from authenticity to authority, but AI responds with authority. to help then, connect us to the consumer. But does that make sense to you? Like,
It's actually one of my biggest focus points for 2026. We haven't even talked about this, but I'm actually building a product called Halo for this exact reason. And the reason why I'm building this because I was looking to manage my brand online. How do I make sure my brand and what's being said and when is AI's, if somebody searches for something I'm interested in, my brand being part of that conversation, is it recommending something else? And if so, where is it getting that source of truth from so I can go beat them at their own game, sort of thing, right? I was looking for that piece of software and there wasn't really anything that was mind blowing because there might be some monitoring available, but then it was like, now what? Now what do I do? So I'm building a whole AI system that will help walk somebody through exactly how to win those key prompts that they're interested in, buddy. Like that's how
yes,
serious
please.
I am about this. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, please. I mean, what I'm doing right now, so I'm going deep and I'm building what I call my AI team, right? Because, A team, and that's cool. So, custom GPTs, but I'm starting to really look into Gemini, and some of the modeling and doing gems. And for everybody listening, a custom GPT on ChatGPT has no memory, right? It's just a brain, the specific brain that you create to do a specific task. And then in Gemini, that gem, same thing, but it has memory. So that's part of the reason why I'm also kind of looking that direction. But like I'll create a custom GPT as part of my A team to help me create other custom GPTs. I create a custom GPT to help me create AEO and GEO optimization, on, my other, content and whatnot. So I'm trying to think through, I think where what you're trying to, create. But I mean, am I doing it effectively? Not yet. I'm trying to figure it out. That's the
Yeah.
infinite feeling with AI. It's like there's so many rabbit holes to go down.
That's why I think that Whoosy needs to exist is help people like you that are trying to figure these things out. Don't have to figure out. You can keep doing what you're doing and do it well, and then just simply offload part of that to an AI that's trained and built by a company like ours that knows exactly how to do it, what to do, and then just monitors and manages it and does it for you, right? And it's a really interesting thing. You mentioned at the top of this, like it's so overwhelming. You know what I mean? And where do you start? But what you just did is that you said you have a very clear goal. You have a very clear executable that you're looking to solve, a very clear problem. And that's the thing that most people don't have. So they look at something like AI, they're like, I don't know where to begin. It's because they don't know who they are. They don't know what they're trying to achieve. They're all over the place. They're generalists. So the other stat I think that we should probably like get out there really clearly is that there has been a 10,000% increase of content being published online now over the last 24 months or so. Okay. Not 1,000%, not 2,000%, not 100%, 10,000%, right? Posts, Reddit forums, social media, blogs, white papers, websites, you name it, including comments on social media, comments in Reddit, Wikipedia pages, all of it, an absolute explosion in content. If you thought the internet was noisy and hard to get found online before, think about it now, right? So the old phrase is the riches are in the niches sort of thing has been around real estate for a long time. That's never been more true than now. If you don't stand for something very specific now, you're not going to stand for anything for very long because it's going to be really hard to kind of penetrate. Now you can still work your
Broke
sphere
up
and
a
all that
little.
kind of stuff, but oh,
Hey, you broke up a little bit. Just start over and hit that again.
okay, where did I break up? Because I don't want to break up
Riches,
anymore.
riches and the niches. I'll edit this part out and close this gap. So yeah, start with riches at niches.
The old saying, the coaches used to say in real estate is the riches are in the niches is very true now more than ever with that level of noise online. And you got to pierce through that noise somehow. And so with like aligning your entire strategies, your AEO, your GEO, your SEO, and your social strategies all in one to solve clear, distinct problems for the consumer will just help solidify your place. It'll allow yourself to carve out a space in a noisy marketplace with Rocket Mortgage and Cooper and all this other stuff. You'll be able to carve it out if you're very clear.
Yeah. Well, and actually, just this morning, I was in a coaching conversation with a branch that I coach, and I was talking about signal versus noise and creating signal, a direct path, a linear path, a direct connection, right? And then of course there's lots of things that go around that. But again, just sort of like visually in this context of conversation, what I'm hearing you say is create signal, create a very clear, distinct source of truth, a path to the consumer that is very clear. Otherwise, you're just part of noise, like the static on a TV. That's noise, and that is just going to continue, erupting. I'm 10,000, 10,000% increase.
And what's great about this, actually, it actually put everybody on an equal playing field again.
Mm,
Okay.
dig
Zillow was
that.
able to get upstream of the entire industry because it was a search of things. And so people were searching for listings, and that became the connecting point between lenders and realtors and consumers was this thing. Now that it's a place of conversations, that's a new connecting point. So it's an equal playing field.
I
Right?
love that.
So when I'm
Yeah.
saying this is a huge opportunity. This shouldn't be overwhelming. This shouldn't be like, "Oh my god, I don't have time for this." No, now is the time to like really understand this, really play this game effectively because you can carve out a space now where you couldn't do it before as easily.
I love that, and I think that's where, like, even, like, when social media kinda hit the scene, it also just gave everybody this free stage to reach and go, to go wide and then go deep, right? And then, of course, now, that's but now AI is that next gen, that next wave to be able to create that opportunity. And, look at what you've created, with Whoosy and whatnot. And the fact that you could just launch a very sophisticated company as fast and it's not I'm trying to find the right word. I'm not going to say easy because nothing is easy, but the fact that you can build this company off an AI platform and create this leverage in a very short amount of time, how hard would that have been 3, 4, 5 years ago, let alone today? And that's going to give rise to, a lot of opportunity and a lot of noise as well.
And that so you said that and I think if I'm gonna like put some sound bites out here that I want to like people like to really pin and like take specific note of specific things that we're talking about is that AI is not making the industry an easier job. It's raising the bar. Okay. So when anybody can build a GPT like you did, then everybody can build up the GPT. And that's why the race for efficiency is a zero sum game because now what? So if every mortgage is super efficient, super
Yeah.
fast, super cheap, now what?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
just commoditize the entire industry.
Okay, but you just said something really, really cool right there. You just said the race to efficiency is a zero sum game.
It absolutely because you can only get it to instant as far as speed goes, and you can only get it to nearly free as far as cost. So then what is my point, right? The consumers do want an efficient, transparent, consistent, and memorable experience. It's got to be all
Mhm.
four of those things.
That hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed.
That's a consumer. I always want that.
But the race to zero friction, like incredible efficiency, is a race to zero feeling. And therefore, you're a commodity if you just look at it that way. Okay. So, if anybody's read the Blue Ocean Strategy or any of those sorts of books, right? You were talking about the red ocean, those bloody shark infested waters of racing for efficiency versus the blue ocean of carving out a memorable space for you. And while everybody's looking to use AI to be more efficient, with I think is good, the winners, I think, after this next year are going to be the ones that learn how to use AI to create memorable, personalized experiences at scale,
Okay, so what
intimacy at scale.
okay, memorable experiences at scale.
Yeah.
So even like coming into this podcast, like I was saying, like you are bringing humanity into what is becoming a commoditized,
Correct.
or potentially commoditized, business. And I think the other thing, because AI is creating a very low barrier of entry, everyone's rushing in, right? To your point, that's where I think it becomes that zero sum game. It gets commoditized, noise increases, and then all of a sudden, I don't know where to turn.
So the industry is kind of fundamentally based on being a knowledge worker. Like I went to Craig because he was so knowledgeable on FHA loans. I went to Debbie because she really knew how to get me that new construction loan. Now we have to shift to a wisdom worker because the consumer has the knowledge. Everybody has the knowledge. Everybody's got GPT 5.1 in their pocket. But now it's not like, hey, I know everything about the FHA loan, and your consumer doesn't want to walk away and say, Craig knew a lot. We want them to walk away and say, Craig really got me.
Yeah, I see you.
Us. I
Yeah,
see
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
So it's really what I'm talking about. Like, how do you create like unreasonable hospitality in your business?
That's a book I wanna read too.
I just read that, and it was some of the core efficiency of the book that I just wrote. The manifesto I just wrote is some of that in there because that feeling of being unreasonably cared for is not only addictive, but it's worth being talked about. And you can't get better advertising than.
Do you think right now the consumer is being unreasonably cared for?
I don't want to be harsh on the industry because I've met some fantastic LOs, right? Some professional killers that were lovely human beings that like cared deeply about the consumer for sure. But I do think in both the real estate and the mortgage side, I think apathy and mediocrity has plagued the industry for too long, if I'm just being honest.
Well, and I think maybe over the last 3 years, that has certainly amplified, unfortunately, and situationally, and I understand, and like you, I'm not putting anybody down. It's been really hard. It's easy to get apathetic when it's been the way it is. But
Oh,
there's also a lot who are saying, and I was talking to someone yesterday, I love it like this right now. I love the fact that the industry is down. I want it to stay down because it's only opportunity for me because I'm going to do these things and everybody else.
And honestly, and while we're being graceful with everybody, and like realize we're all full of our own fallibilities, if somebody is really overwhelmed and believe AI to be a horrible thing and believe it to be hard out there, 100% it's true. And if somebody says, "Oh my God, this is the best opportunity I've ever had," in the same exact situation, it's also 100% true for them. You know that, Craig. Your mindset coach. So at the end of the day, I think one of the last competitive advantage is your mindset.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
I love
when
that you said that.
when everybody has access to very powerful tools, Whoosy being one of them, honestly, then it's what do you do with it that matters. And if we want to talk about injecting humanity in this whole thing, I think what also, if I'm going to say what a lot of coaches or companies are getting wrong, they're saying, "Hey, how do we AI power our people? How do we AI, power our operations? How do we AI power our processors? How do we AI power our loan officers? How do we AI power agents?" Right? They're missing an entire step. And then is how do you put best practices and expertise into the AI first and then give that to them? Giving ChatGPT to your loan officers just means that they can do more mediocre marketing at scale.
Well, right, and that's where these things fall down, and totally agree. What I love too is it's like what I think about is how do I AI power the process? So if I can take the process and reduce the minutia that otherwise might hold you down over here, now I can leverage you up to do what is in your genius zone,
There
right?
you
And
go.
that's something that I'm focused on. That's my keynote for 2026, locking into your genius zone, you know.
Right.
And
You've actually
so
answered the now what. If everything's like here, 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 then the now what is your genius zone. I think that's genius, buddy, by the way.
you like
Which I
that?
love.
All right.
Yeah, I love the little tagline. That's
You like
it's
it.
really smooth.
Okay,
Um,
good.
And that, like, I think this is actually an analog renaissance. I'm calling it an analog renaissance. So the
Mhm.
now what is the analog part of the business. When you have an AI note taker listening in on your meetings, right? And you're doing your buyer consult, and you have your AI note taker taking notes now. Now, instead of going back and saying, okay, remind me at the calendar, and you have the AI put it in your CRM or whatever you're doing with these notes, right? Instead of that, because that's table stakes now. Now you need to be sitting down with the AI and say, hey, what did they mention that was personal to them? Right? What did they mention? Like, where was a pause or like, where did I miss answering a question fully? Right? That is those sort of very human questions you should be asking of those notes, not like the general things of like, hey, let's do our tasks and to dos and all that kind of stuff, because that
Yeah.
is table stakes.
I mean, I love that you brought that up. That's exactly like one of these opportunities, like because AI can read some of the emotional responses, like you said, those subtleties that we might miss, and that creates some insights, And like I use an AI note taker in my coaching huddles, and I'll advise, and I have it on my end. I've built my custom GPT if when I want to do it, and I'll help my client do the same thing. I say, take the transcript from this, drop it into that GPT, and ask it to help extract some of the insights. Help extract, you can help it summarize what are the key insights, what are the action items, what are the takeaways, and you can create some interaction to simplify, because even in a coaching conversation, I try really hard not to get too much, but sometimes it's like we have a lot that we are going through. My job and one of my superpowers is taking the complicated out of the complex.
Mhm.
AI is an amazing tool to help do that,
Yeah.
right? To help give us that lift. And if I can simplify it, then we can execute on it.
And so like, let's keep going with this AI note taker example for a minute, because you know that everything's being noted for you, like the drudgery of the tasking and all that kind of stuff after the meeting is basically handled. Now you can spend that extra moment during the meeting noticing, like, when does she like reach over and touch his arm? Right? When is there that little like pause or glance at each other, these little subtle like human cues that the AI can't pick up in the
A little
transcripts?
breath.
Yeah, those things, or the little tension or the little arm cross or those sorts of things. So the winners in the future are not the highest IQ, because we all have AI that will help our IQ. It's the EQ
Yeah.
part.
Oh, I love that. That's another really good point. AI is taking over, not taking over, but that's going to help leverage up the IQ. And you were saying it earlier, and I've said this for a while too. Like knowledge isn't necessarily valuable anymore, not like it used to, because we have all the access in the world to knowledge. What we do with that knowledge, that's what's valuable. You were saying, and another thing I love to say is like, it's better to be wise than smart. Well, AI can be the smart. We have to be the wise.
From the knowledge worker to the wisdom worker is what I'm saying. Absolutely. Yep. Going from Craig knows a lot to Craig understood me, you know?
Well, humans want to be heard even more than they want to be right. And that's a human condition. That has nothing to do with AI.
So in my book, I wrote this little example, this little short story of this couple who, had AI design the perfect house, right? The beam calculations, the floor, the feng shui, like it was dialed. Everything was like perfect in dimensions and all these things. So it was clinically perfect, right? And they walk in and they say, "Hey, I designed this house for us." To the architect, I need you just your engineering stamp on this and all that kind of stuff. And in my story, I say, well, the architect, take the iPad and turn it over and said, when you're sitting in the little buffet table, does the sun hit the side of your face or did you ignore that completely? Did you design the living room so it feels like it's a path through or it's like a hearth where it holds your children, when they come to visit? It's like that, those sorts of things that the AI just can't do. It's not grounded in truth. It's not grounded in humanity, but it can do an elegant, perfect, frictionless house that's completely forgettable.
It becomes sterile.
It becomes sterile. So I open up in the book about this. The book's called The Empty Room, actually. It's about this book that's like perfect, perfectly smooth walls. And it's so perfect that it leaves no mark on you and you leave no mark on it. And therefore it's totally forgettable. You got to give the roughness of being real,
Yeah.
to add the humanity to it, in a
Yeah.
very kind of poetic way. I'm trying to be poetic here with you because you're
That
so,
is this the name of the book you're writing, or this is an
yeah.
existing book?
This is the one I'm writing. I just sent it to you for you so you can read it and tell me.
That's
It's
okay,
short,
but
short read, 20, 30 minutes. And I'm trying to put all these concepts into a manifesto that people can just digest really easily. So
that's super cool that you're doing that. And so okay, so say the name of that book again.
I call it The Empty Room, the AI manifesto. And I tried to write it in a non-business way. So I put poetry in there, some little parables. I even gave some examples of prompts to use so you can add, make your AI interactions more human and how to look for things. So there's a little bit of a workbook style, but it's not meant to read like any other normal business book. I hope you
Yeah.
like it.
No, dude, I can. You sent it to me. Like I told you, like I'm excited to read it. I just didn't have a chance to read it before this, so I'm looking forward to it. I didn't know. I didn't catch the title though, so that's what perked my interest. Of like,
Yeah.
you
The
know,
Empty Room. The Empty Room.
why are you writing this? I mean, what's coming through for you that gave you that sort of like that you wanted to write this?
I've been wanting to write, I write stuff all the time, but I wanted to package. Okay. So first of all, I think this is just incredibly important.
Mhm.
Like we're at an important inflection point. I've got two kids in college. And so the way, AI is being taught and stuff in schools, I feel very, very strongly that in a Western civilization, capitalist society, the race towards efficiency is just too seductive. Speed is seductive, right? And you can get sucked into that so as fast as the world is going, you can get rushed in that river like pretty quickly, especially at the things picking up. So how do I create some stillness,
You just
right?
hit something. You said stillness. So, okay, finish your thought. I'm gonna come back to this. Go ahead. Sorry.
So using the same analogy, it was like you have this rushing river and it's easy to jump in and get rushed. Why? I was like, well, how do you become the rock in the river where you create a little safe spot for your clients to sit with you? Your customers and your coworkers, your employees to sit with you in the stillness. And so I wanted to like write this little short story in this little book with little poetry to have people like create a little stillness and be like, oh my God, this is an analog renaissance. We actually have a chance to do more of the things that matter and remove some of the drudgery from our job. What an opportunity here.
What an opportunity. And by the way, like how wonderful that, so you and I are so aligned because I mean, so much of what I'm talking about right now, locking in your genius zone. And that really came about. Someone gave me a testimonial, like, and of course I should know it specifically off my head, but it was something like, wow, Craig was really in his genius zone, when we worked together type of thing. And I was thinking to myself, what does that mean?
Hmm.
Like, what does that mean to be in your genius zone? And then how do we deliver that to the market? And so that's what my keynote is for 2026. I started breaking that down, and basically my thesis here, and I'm going to come back to what you just said. I'm going to tie this back. But my thesis about your genius zone, it's the intersection of three things.
Okay.
Number one, what's your identity? Who
Hmm.
are you? And is your identity tied internally or externally, right? Number two, what gives you abundant energy? What is it that it's like you're plugged into the wall that gives you abundance versus a battery that could be like scarcity? What is it that you love and what you do, for example? And I kind of go through and help sort of flesh that out. And that's where I think a lot of AI can help offload the things that you don't love and how do we scale that off, right? So because you're living with abundance when you're truly consulting with a borrower. I love helping a borrower get it, turning a first-time home buyer into a homeowner. I love that. The problem solve. Do you love chasing conditions? Do you love, so kind of breaking that down and this is for for everybody, right? So really getting connected there. And then the third piece is how do you then intentionally apply this into your life and your business? How do you activate this? And when those three things, who you are, and that's tied internally, are you a loan officer or a mortgage strategist? What gives you abundant energy? And then how do you activate it? How do you intentionally apply that in your life and your business? The intersection of those three things, I think, is your genius zone. Now, three things, not two out of three, not one out of three, all three of those, that has to happen. And really, and the reason why I bring this up is because, and you said it, because when you're in your genius zone, also believe that's also what gets you grounded, what gives you that stillness that you said. That's why I perked up because that's really on my mind. That's my theme going into 2026 also is grounded, really being grounded, being still, being confident. And the other thing, with all of this too, is when you're in your genius zone and you have that conscious awareness, it also now it creates that signal and reduces noise. We're not fighting that imposter syndrome or comparison syndrome, right? We're grounded, we're still, we're in our zone. We're like the rock in the river creating its own little eddy, its own little pool right there. And I think AI absolutely plays a role in helping us live and be in our genius zone.
It's well said, buddy. And I'm glad we kind of shifted the pace a little bit because I'll get a little personal here for a minute since the vibe I think is right for this.
Yeah, please.
You asked why did I write this book and all that kind of stuff. I had a very personal experience with how an efficient system can like literally almost kill you. So I did this crazy event and I ended up endurance event. It's called 29029, and the event is a 36-hour event where you're climbing snow basin, the height of Mount Everest, in 36 hours, and it's hot as 95 degrees, and I redlined my body for the 35 and a half hours, and not on purpose, but I did. I fully redlined where I ended up with rhabdomyolysis, and I had 3 heart attacks in 18 hours, and I had liver failure, kidney failure, pulmonary embolism. I was in the ICU for 8 days, sort of thing. Okay. It was bad, bad, bad. I had to be kind of like revived 9 different times. Okay. So if you can imagine, I'm coming off of the mountain and they're putting me in this ambulance and I'm completely paralyzed and I have no glucose and my blood pressure is literally through the roof. My pulse is in the 20s and I'm just not all there and I'm in complete paralyzed and my jaw's locked, but I have a little bit of consciousness and I could hear them talking about how when the transport ambulance get there is when they're going to give me the IV. Even I know, that I need an IV like now. I needed it like 4 hours ago, to be honest with you. And so I said, give me an IV, right? And they said, it's our policy, the transport ambulance has to administer the IV and blah, blah, blah. They'll be here in 10 minutes. And I'm like, don't bet my life on a policy. And they stopped looking at me as a patient and looked at me as a person in this efficient system. The policies weren't in place for me. The policies were in place for insurance and legal and all these other things, not for me. And an industry like ours is putting all these policies and procedures in place and compliance and efficiencies, blah, 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 blah. And we're forgetting that these people are people. Okay. Now, also move forward to the hospital, just to go a little further with this story. And one of the times my heart was failing and I had complete organ failure and they were giving me like literally a 0% chance of living. And there's nurses and alarms are going off and all this kind of stuff. And they'd called in the chaplain. Okay. They called in this chaplain and she had this wrinkled skin and she had the wispy gray hair and she had these really piercing blue eyes. And, we locked eyes. And it was that human connection that kept me there. It wasn't the fucking machines or whatever. It was that tether, that human tether that I just viscerally will never forget. Right. So I was really like motivated to see how humanity in a system isn't just kind of fun to talk about. It's fucking difference between life and death in some examples. Right. So that's why I started writing this way and thinking this way and like realizing this way. That's really important that we just keep that first and foremost for not just for us, our clients, but for our kids. They're going to inherit this generation and what the decisions we make now with this technology will affect them.
I don't know where to go with what you just said.
Sorry, yeah, but that's it. You asked me an honest, that's my most honest answer is why I started
Bro,
thinking.
I mean, honestly, like that, I did not know that. That is, and by the way, thank you for sharing. Aside from like that experience, that was a beautiful story. And that, I mean, truly that human connection, like you said right there, that moment that like, and I don't want to opine on what that could have meant had she not walked in the room and you made that human connection, maybe that was the difference, that kept you here. I don't,
It was
but
one
like
of
that.
them for sure. It's up there as one of them. There's no doubt in my mind because there's no way I can explain to you what that feels like just to be locked into a pair of eyes, right? When you feel yourself dissolving, you know what I mean? And you're like, nope, I'm staying here because I have a reason. Like there's somebody, her eye said stay.
I
Her eye
should
like
say.
I couldn't talk. She wasn't talking. She wasn't giving me platitudes or prayers. It was just this thing. It wasn't the system, this efficient Western civilized like medical care. It was that human being that cared deeply about me in that moment.
It was that human being that cared deeply about you in that moment. It was not a machine that you pressed a button on, the most advanced machine in the world. It was that and I do believe that, we're all made up of energy, and
Oh
that
yeah,
energy and that connection, that yeah. Does that and again, give me a timeline on that too. When did that happen in your life?
2.5 years ago,
2.5 years ago.
I had
Was that
started this company already.
Oh, you had already started this company.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, part of this whole experiment of starting this company as well, like I believe that business is as much of a personal development game as it is a business game, and you cannot build your business bigger than you are. It's only as professional as you are, as knowledgeable as you are, as punctual as you are, as aware as you are, as honest as you are, all those things, right? So business to me is a game of also personal development. And so I like to do these challenges because that makes me grow, and the bigger you grow, the bigger things you can do. And that's also a way to meet other amazing people, and you can't do big things on your own. So meeting a lot of amazing people as a result of this project as well. And so when we also talk about like this game of AI and whatnot, like AI can help you grow in ways that you've never grown before if you're curious and resourceful. And those are two currencies of the future that I think that anybody can have. You don't have to be a techie guy. This is not a technology revolution. This is a creativity revolution. This is a human revolution.
Yeah, well, and notice the through line in this entire conversation as well, as we're talking about humanity, we're talking about the experience, we're talking about connection. We're not talking about the most sophisticated tech in the world. And I think, going back to that's almost just the table stakes now. The most sophisticated tech in the world is just now table
Literally.
stakes, literally. Right. And like you said earlier, I mean, mindset is the most important. It's the most valuable and important asset we have because it's in our control and it shapes everything. It shapes the world. It shapes how we interpret the world and how the world sees us. Right.
And it's the thing you have complete agency over. You have complete control of that. It's completely on us, which is such a blessing and a curse simultaneously because it's like personal development is a motherfucker, if you don't mind me saying, right?
Please do.
And the more aware you are, the more conscious you are, the more responsibility you have on source, and it can get like a little bit daunting. But that is the life worth living, I believe, is the life worth pursuing. This sort of like growth and curiosity, and just like, wow, what does this taste like, and who
Yeah.
is she, and what's he all about, and like, can we do this together, and so it's not a sadist thing to like constantly grow and like challenge yourself and climb mountains and all those kinds of things. This is the pursuit of like life, and the pursuit of life is just a really fun thing to do. And I'm grateful to wake up every day. I've never worked this hard, to be honest with you. Never. I have never worked 6, 7 days a week, 10 hours a day for the last 3 years, like nonstop, hardly any vacations. Sold everything, other distraction, no other businesses. I quit drinking, like anything, just to focus solely on this to see what I could do with other great people. And so we'll see. I just believe in immersion, and
Yeah.
this is an immersive thing.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. Do you think that experience that you went through, has that fueled this? Did that influence your immersion in this, or would you already have been as immersed as you are?
I believe in immersion just in general with everything, but it changed the way I view it. It opened my eyes to almost this contrarian view that I believe very strongly in. Like if we do look, what's the main themes? What are people talking about? The majority of people are talking about is generally going to produce mediocre results. We can look at it in every industry and everything, like what the mainstream is talking about in a way. So I was like, well, what's just the shade of that will produce like a wildly better result for everybody that's involved in that. That's what we're constantly looking for, is these shades of just a little bit different thinking, a little bit more holistically, a little bit more like I design all my products using the infinity symbol as
Uh-huh.
my mantra.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
There's no dead ends. There's no stops. I'm trying to like produce like it works wholly, in the way that you are thinking. And that's, it's not easy to do, to be honest with you, but it's worth
Well,
doing.
and again, I love this conversation because I mean that's how I look at AI. I mean, it's so infinite. And in one hand, that's overwhelming. That's like my head's gonna explode. On the other hand, taken a very almost linear approach, for me, as I'm thinking about how I'm building out my AI team, like we're talking about, and create my AI agents, I'm just starting kind of like down a single path. Like, I have a question, I want to ask this person that question, or I have a need in my business. I wish I had this person to do that for me. Well, okay, now I'm going to create these AI agents to help me, facilitate that. And that's how I'm, reducing, I would say, the noise and creating that. But, with all that being said, like, when you had that first thought of, I want to start, by the way, like, you must have some madness in you and some craziness, but, A, that had the entrepreneurship, sickness, and B, but to start, a company like this. I mean, what were those initial thoughts? I mean, what problem, and I think you said it, but say it again. What problem were you trying to solve when you thought you woke up one day, say, and I'm sure it wasn't this easy, but, I'm going to start a company called Whoosy. Where did you start with that?
It started, and we talked about this a little bit the other day. It started with my daughter's homework. When we talked the other day, it honestly started from realizing that this technology. So the version of the story is that my daughter was doing homework. The first day ChatGPT came out, I could not help her. I couldn't figure it out. And I was like, oh, I'm looking for a reason to test out ChatGPT a little bit here. So within that hour or 2 hours or so, I was able to like transform my daughter from being deflated, frustrated. We couldn't find a tutor to help her with her stats and AP calculus math and all that kind of stuff. Like, and I was able to help her with it as a result of this. And that was addicting, buddy. Like being empowered and helping my daughter in a way. I was like, oh man, that's something worth working on. How do I create an empowerment system, like an AI augmentation system, not an AI automation system, an augmentation, and keep people say human in the loop a lot. I call it expert in the loop. Like, how do you keep the expert in the loop and collaborate with AIs? That is just something I was like, man, that's worth spending my time on. Is how do I empower people to feel like they're superhuman? And that's something I thought that was worth working on. And so here we are 3 years later.
Well, I totally recognize that because I actually, school started, a couple months ago already. Same thing. I can't do this homework anymore. So I created a couple custom GPT tutors, right? Specific for math, specific for, for biology, and created that. And my daughter's like, and she's, thank you. That's so helpful. And I designed it not to give her the answers. It's to help coach her, guide her, and whatnot. And, it's just reduce the stress, reduce the anxiety, the challenges again, so she can leverage, she can get guided towards the IQ, so we can also then leverage the EQ in her. And I didn't, that's great, and I wrote down empowerment and augmentation. So Whoosy so tell us a little bit more about, what you're doing now. I mean, here we are 2.5 years later ish, from when you launched. And by the way, buddy, I launched my coaching business 2.5 years ago too. So I
There you
think we were on the
go.
same signal back
Yeah, there
then.
you
So
go. There you
yeah,
go. And it took a while because I could have just built a tool, right? But tools you can see are becoming irrelevant very fast as the next model upgrades, and you can just do it natively in Gemini or
yeah,
natively in
right,
Grok or whatever,
yeah.
right? So the tool I knew wasn't something I was going to waste my investor dollar in or waste my life trying to just build a tool and make a few bucks. So I'm trying to build an ecosystem. So Whozy's got all of the best models. I'm also trying to consolidate the best AI tech stack in one place. So you don't have to have a million subscriptions and more username and passwords. And where do I go to do this thing? So if you prefer 5.1 GPT or Gemini and Grok, like it's all in there, including the video generation models, including the image generation models. We just put in Nano Banana 2, Nano Banana Pro in yesterday. It's wild, you know what I mean? So we're also an aggregator and a curator of the best tools. So somebody doesn't have to go do that on their own and put it in a safe, secure platform. By the way, in this industry is not paying enough attention to data privacy, safety, and security. Okay.
We haven't
So,
even gotten into that. That's a whole
dude,
other podcast.
what a
Yeah.
wild time this is when I'm talking to loan officers and they're like, yeah, I just put it in the Grok. I'm like, oh, the paid version is free. Now the free version. Okay, well, did you read the terms and conditions? Like, so anyways, it's one of those. Whoosy does consider that as part of our premier, value proposition. And you can go to trust.whoosy.ai. I've got a third party that monitors us and you can view all of our controls and all that stuff. So your privacy, your data stuff is yours and it doesn't train a model and we don't share it across. And so we take that very seriously, by the way. And I think the industry really needs to lean in, and these vendors. Here's the other odd thing. There's a bunch of charlatans out there, to be honest with you. That's fine. That's just the way there's a gold rush and people rush in. But I think vetting the vendors, because a vendor building AI products that does not understand your industry is not a great combination.
So I know exactly what you're saying. I've had some of those vendors, approach me, for help on that. And it's you're so anyway. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Even like you call it like, hey, we should get our AI caller and we'll call your database and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, does it check?
It's one of them who approached, and I'm like, "Guys, you don't even know where I mean, you can't just dabble you cannot dabble in this, not in
Yeah.
this industry."
Yeah. Yeah. And there's going to be some lawsuits as a result of that. And consumers are getting pissed. Consumers don't want to be spammed by AI bots, by the way.
And it's gonna create I mean, think about it. AI can call everybody in America like that. I mean, you think the spam is gonna go down? It's gonna increase. So there's an interesting conversation there.
Yeah. In fact, even on my new phone, like in the new AI phone, I put that AI blocker on there. So I don't get a phone call unless I even know who it is. Everyone, is forced to go through my AI spam, filter before it even rings my phone because
Well,
of
tell me
that.
what
Like
that is, because I get tax resolution call every day at 4 o'clock,
brutal. It's brutal. And so there's the thing, there's that rush, that seductive rush towards like, oh, you know what? If I could call 5 people in a day, now I can call 50 or 500. Let's
Yeah,
do that. Not thinking about the second and third layer consequences of that decision.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So Hoozy, you built a company. It's an ecosystem. You brought in multiple models. It gives the user the opportunity to use different models inside one sort of fabric, if you will. And I know that as you are, talk a little bit more about like some of the use cases, and as you're working with some different companies, and how because I think what you're doing with Hoozy is so like it's so important, because again, like as more companies they want to use AI, but to your point, it's not safe. You have privacy issues. The executives don't even fully understand it. So it's creating a gap. And as this thing is advancing, the gap is going to start increasing. And so I view what you're doing as solving that gap, at an enterprise level, if you will.
So yeah, actually, since you mentioned we're gap, whether it's a solo loan officer or the team leader or the organization, like everybody has that I'm seeing is typically 3 gaps. They have a strategy gap. They have like they may be buying tools, but there's not an overarching sort of strategy to it. That's so we offer services and coaching, by the way, and consulting too as well. We help companies and teams and solos like figure out the strategy, which is important before you go buy doing anything. Not can you, it's should you. Then there's a knowledge gap. How do we increase the AI fluency? Your prompt engineering. What do you use the different models for? What's safe and secure? What's RAG? How does that work? All these things. And then also the trust gap. How do you know when it's hallucinating? What to do when it is? Is it going to take my job? Can I use it with consumers? Does consumer trust this? Right. So you have the strategy, the trust, and the knowledge gap. So our company works with individuals or enterprise to close those 3 gaps for them. And so I'm finding that the platform is amazing, is super powerful. We're powering marketing companies now, and not just in the real estate space. It works for anything, but we do have real estate specific instances, which I think is very important to people here. So that way, when the generations come out of it, you're not just getting the best average answer off the internet. Unless you're a fantastic prompt engineer, you're getting high quality expertise level sort of, answers and collaboration strategy with your AI partner. So that's just a really key difference is having the hand holding component. We have a community, we do live coaching calls, consulting, and we do custom build and custom integrations as well. So, we're really trying to make sure that a company understands clearly what they need done. If they don't know what that is, we help them. Yeah, we work with them and figure that out.
And again, I want to emphasize here, and it's not a tool, it's not a product, right? It's a strategy, it's a solution, it's an ability, it's a catalyst to be able to help to be able to use the power of this tool to then leverage the humans and the people within your organization.
I can't wait to show you, buddy. I can't wait to show you how you can build. We call them personas, so like you can build these personas, inside with that. You can train them on, documentation easily, instantly, and amplify your best practices across your organization. Now we have a collaboration system with your clients or with teammates. And it's just that part is really important to us to get that part right. That it's not, I don't want to say simple and easy are 2 different things.
100%. Simple
Yeah.
does not mean easy, right?
Yeah, those are 2 different things. So it is there's a simplicity to it, but I
Yep.
understand that it's foreign because it's unlike thinking about it than you've ever thought about it before. So I want to nod to that. I fully honor that, part of it. I fully honor when people feel overwhelmed or not knowing where to start. I totally like that is a very reasonable thing to do, but that's not an excuse at the same time.
Right. Right.
It's a very reasonable feeling, but people say, "Oh, I don't have time, to learn this." I say, "All right, let's play a little game. Let's change it." Okay, you don't have time to do it. I get it. So, do you have time to be the best for your client? Well, sure I do. Do you have You have time to operate at the highest level so your customers get the highest and best, version of you. Well, sure I do. Well, now you have time for this because this is exactly what that is. So if you change the wording around it, changes the perception of what you don't have time for.
You
You
just got to
know,
reframe. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just a little reframe, right? And you can like play with yourself all day long, get yourself into the state to learn a little bit. But at the same time, too, it's the very first technology. If you get stuck, you don't know what to do, you just ask it. You don't have to like go to your front desk person.
That's the amazing thing. Like that, and actually, like I actually now like working with chatbots because of the AI technology. I rather talk to a chatbot now. That's never happened before
I
because
know.
the AI can have that conversation, get my answer quickly. I don't have to go through the channels and speak, yada yada. So there is so, and there's so many opportunities, and I do think that for a lot of like and I'm doing a lot of AI coaching now, and I'm helping branches and teams. I'm doing a lot of people to get them over that hump because a lot of people are still back here. They want to, they've kind of dabbled, but I'm trying to help them get over the hump. And because that gap is only going to continue widening if we continue holding back. And the first thing I'll say is, look, for anybody that's listening that wants to, number one, just start talking to it. Number two, if you want to start going deeper, think about as soon as you say, I wish I could ask this question to this person, that's where AI comes in,
Sure.
right? I,
Sure.
you know, I go around my house, I take pictures of all my appliance stickers now. My water heater went out. I couldn't get the pilot light lit. Like, what's going on? I took a picture of it. Like, oh, your thermocoupler's out of like, how do you even, I took a picture of the little flame in there.
Can I say something though, Craig? And this isn't, I'm not just blowing smoke. Like you are rare in that. Like you have a very curious mind. Not everybody thinks like that. And now this world has given you a huge evolutionary advantage.
I like to evolve. I like to, can I say
I'm
evolute? Evolve.
evolve, baby. You're gonna shift into this new guy. And so like there's a since you mentioned that, it's really funny because people talk about like, oh, well, AI is not going to affect blue collar jobs. I'm like, well, let's talk about a plumber that's AI powered versus not, or an HVAC guy that is AI powered versus not, for the reasons you just said. My furnace went out here. He was out here. I looked out there and he was watching YouTube, right, of how to fix the thing and like kind of thing. And I imagine, hey, the next plumber comes, he's got the Ray-Ban Meta glasses or whatever, and he's like, hey, like this thing, and just like talking to him, and he can just fix it like instantly, right? So yeah, he's going to touch everything. It's horizontal. It's not a
Yeah.
vertical thing. It's a very horizontal like phenomenon that we're experiencing here.
I love that, and, could go down, I talk about it like agility is horizontal to your verticals, and if
Mhm.
AI is the horizontal to all your different verticals in your business or your life or whatever, that gives you scale. That's what you stand on, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, I could go down that rabbit hole forever because that goes into, so much of what I do, and you said the word strategy earlier. That's like candy for me, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I love. I think of myself as the chief strategy officer for my clients.
Yeah. There
And
you
so
go.
that's why I look at this. This is strategy. Everything we're talking about is strategy. So now we have to put the strategy together to get you over the hump and starting to implement how to use this, in your life. Thanksgiving, I cooked an awesome Thanksgiving dinner. That was influenced by AI. I talked into it. I said, all right, here's what I want to cook, and here's a couple things. What do you think? Consider yourself like Bobby Flay and Guy Fieri and Malibu Farms and
You're
the
Iron Man,
Food
buddy.
Lab
You're like
and
Iron Man with your own Jarvis.
AI Iron Man. Yeah, dude, I crushed it, man. I had a great Thanksgiving, man. It was, and just because it's those like little details that I don't know. And
Mhm.
so, but anyway, I could keep going, man. Dude, I love this conversation. Where can everyone find you, man? How do they get in touch with you? People are interested in Whoosy. I mean, you got the hat on, but give us a little information here.
Yeah, you can go to whoosy.ai, or my email is eric, ERIC, at whoosy.ai. Please feel free to email me. I'm really excited to launch the Halo product.
I'm really excited to learn more about that.
Buddy, maybe we get off the call, I'll give you a quick demo because
And we got to talk about the collaboration board. We talked about that when you were still in the infancy of that, but like,
yeah.
yes, yes, please.
Yeah, I wanna show you a couple of things because it's really what I'm really looking to do is partner with people like you that get it, that can help influence and impact other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So,
No,
yeah, thanks.
I already have companies in mind. I've got people in mind. Like anyway, I'm super excited. I'm crawling out of my skin, and I'm also overwhelmed. I'm also like, like it's so much. But I'm just taking it one step at a time, and I am remaining curious. And I
That's
think for
it.
everybody listening, if I could just say one thing, just be curious and let that guide you. Don't worry about the rest. Just be curious.
And if we were to really think about like what's happening with the consumer, the AI-powered consumer, the thing that our industry is really good at is thinking that we're special, thinking that we're competing against each other. We're not. The consumer's having an AI experience with Amazon, with Apple, with Samsung, with Costco, with their dentist, right? And so they're used to it, right? The AI fluency among our consumers is just dramatically going through the roof. Like 80% of our customers, I think it was 80, I'm pretty sure the number is 84%. Realtor.com did a study and they just released it last month. I think it was 84% of home buyers are using AI some point to look at home market research and whatnot. 84% already.
84%.
Okay.
They're not going to Google. They're going to AI and they're asking the questions and having the conversation.
Correct. So this isn't, we should be going where the puck is going. And that's how clear it is to me.
Yeah. All right. Last question, buddy.
Hit
You're
me.
in the audience. You're listening. What's the one word you want everyone to walk away with from today's conversation?
I have to say this word. I have to say humanity. I have to say it. I have to say that, like you were talking about the stillness and the soul and the roots and all those things, being grounded of that. AI doesn't have a point of view and it does not have a source. It's not a source of truth. Large language models specifically. We are that source of truth, and that only comes from our consciousness, our aware, conscious humanity. So that's my word, buddy.
I mean, maybe I've got AI now embedded in me, but in my telepathic ways, that was exactly the word I thought you were going to say.
Seriously?
Yeah. That was, yeah.
You
That's
set
what
me
I
up
was,
so well. That's so funny.
yeah.
Everyone, I want people to hear me like, that's not, I had no idea what we're going to talk about today. So none of this was planned. I can promise you.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. So, all right, dude, I appreciate it, brother. We're gonna have lots more conversations. I'm looking forward to digging in further into what who's he doing. Everyone, definitely check out Eric Post. Follow him on LinkedIn and follow him on Instagram. He's got awesome social media. But check out who'she.ai. And if you guys have any questions, reach out to Eric. Reach out to me if you don't have his information, and I'll forward you over there. And buddy, I appreciate you coming on and talking some shit, bro.
Buddy, I hope everyone goes out there and has an amazing, killer 2026, in every way, man. Cheers, buddy.
Let's go do it, and let's lock into our genius zone. You see that? Yeah, plug that
See
in.
ya.
All right, everybody, tuning off. See ya, and thanks for joining us in the Talking Shift studio. Hey, thanks for joining me today on Talking Shift. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on our next episode.